The day they threw her out, the sky was pale and quiet, the kind of morning that pretends nothing bad will happen. Mara Ellison stood on the front lawn with a single suitcase, her hands trembling not from the cold but from shock. Her 2 children clung to her sides, one holding her jacket, the other gripping a worn backpack. Behind them, the house door was already shut. No shouting, no explanations, just a clean, merciless ending delivered in broad daylight, as if cruelty felt more justified when the sun was watching. The neighbors' curtains barely moved. Cars passed, life continued, and in that moment, Mara understood something terrifying and final: she and her children were completely alone. If you believe that kindness, second chances, and quiet strength still matter in this world, take a moment right now to like this video, share it, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel, Only Kindness. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Mara had never imagined her life would fracture this way. She had been strong once, fiercely independent, the kind of woman who could ride through storms and still stand tall afterward. Years ago, people had whispered about her background, about the life she escaped, about the choices she made to survive. She never corrected them. She didn't need approval. All she wanted was peace for her children. When she married into the Ellison family, she believed stability had finally found her. She believed that if she worked hard enough, stayed quiet enough, and endured long enough, she would earn her place. But the cruelty she faced wasn't loud. It was slow, precise, and cold, disguised as concern and what's best for the family. After her husband's sudden passing, everything changed. The house that once felt shared became hostile. Conversations stopped. Meals became silent. She felt watched, judged, weighed, and found lacking. The in-laws never raised their voices, but their disapproval pressed down on her like a ceiling slowly lowering. They questioned her parenting, her past, her worth. They suggested the children would be better off without her influence. Mara swallowed her pride daily, telling herself that stability mattered more than dignity. She stayed because leaving felt like failure, and failure felt like letting her children down. The morning they forced her out was painfully ordinary. The sun was already high. Birds chirped. Breakfast dishes sat in the sink. She was handed her suitcase as if it had always been waiting. The words were calm and rehearsed. They said it was time. That she had overstayed her welcome. That the house belonged to blood, not to someone like her. The children were told to hurry. No tears were shed by the people inside. The door closed gently, final and unbothered. Mara didn't scream. She didn't beg. She simply stood there, breathing in shallow, controlled breaths, because breaking down would scare the kids. She walked them down the driveway, step by step, as if this had always been the plan. Each step felt heavier than the last. By the time they reached the sidewalk, the house already felt like a memory that didn't belong to them anymore. The days that followed blurred together under the harsh honesty of daylight. Shelters, borrowed couches, cheap motels with flickering lights and thin curtains that let in too much morning sun. Mara learned how to stretch meals, how to answer questions without alarming her children, how to cry silently in bathrooms so they wouldn't hear. She smiled in public, she nodded politely, but inside, she was unraveling. Not because she was weak, but because carrying hope without certainty is exhausting. Still, she never stopped trying. She applied for jobs during the day, filling out forms while her children sat beside her with coloring books. She walked everywhere, refusing to complain when her feet ached. Every morning, she woke before the kids just to watch the light come through the window, reminding herself that if the sun kept rising, so could she. There was dignity in survival, even when survival felt humiliating. What Mara didn't know was that her life had already begun to shift in ways she couldn't yet see. Hidden beneath years of silence was a truth that had been waiting patiently. A truth tied to her late mother, a woman who had lived quietly, worked relentlessly, and trusted almost no one. A woman who believed that wealth didn't need to announce itself. The legal documents had been delayed, buried under bureaucracy and distant offices. When the letter finally arrived, it came on a clear afternoon, addressed to a shelter's front desk, almost lost among bills and flyers. Mara opened it sitting at a small plastic table while her children napped nearby. At first, she thought it was a mistake. Then a scam. Then a cruel joke. But the words didn't change no matter how many times she read them. The inheritance was real, vast, unimaginable. $200 million left entirely to her. No conditions, no shared claims, no one else named. She didn't scream. She didn't laugh. She sat there, perfectly still, as if sudden movement might make it disappear. The room felt too bright, too quiet. Her hands shook again, But this time, not from fear. From disbelief. From grief. From the strange guilt that comes when relief feels undeserved. The transformation didn't happen overnight. There were lawyers, confirmations, waiting periods. But daylight kept coming, and with each passing day, Mara stood a little straighter. She secured housing first, refusing luxury until stability was certain. A clean, sunlit home with enough space for her children to breathe. She enrolled them in schools where they were treated gently, where no one looked at them like they were temporary. She rebuilt their routines, one ordinary morning at a time. Mara didn't rush to announce her new reality. She watched quietly. She observed how people treated her when they believed she was still powerless. She learned who showed kindness without knowing her value. Those were the people she kept close. The rest faded naturally. When her in-laws found out, it wasn't through her. It came through whispers, headlines, sudden curiosity. The same people who had dismissed her now spoke her name carefully. They reached out with polite messages, heavy with regret disguised as concern. They suggested reconciliation. They mentioned family. They mentioned the children. Mara read their words in full daylight, sitting by a window, sunlight illuminating every line. She felt no anger, no satisfaction, just clarity. She chose not to return to the past. Instead, she invested in futures. Education funds, community programs, shelters like the one that once held her when she had nothing but determination. She built quiet systems of support, not because she wanted recognition, but because she remembered exactly what it felt like to be invisible. The children changed too, slowly, subtly. Laughter returned. Sleep came easier. They stopped flinching at raised voices. They learned what safety felt like. They learned that losing everything didn't mean losing love. They watched their mother not become hardened, but steadier, kinder, more certain of who she was. Mara never told her children about the inheritance in numbers. She told them about choices. About how they now had the freedom to help others. About how money was a tool, not a crown. She taught them that dignity wasn't something you earn from others. It's something you protect within yourself. Years later, the memory of that morning on the lawn still surfaced sometimes. Especially in daylight, but it no longer hurt. It reminded her of how far she had walked without knowing where the road would lead. It reminded her that survival doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, keep going, and that is enough. If this story has touched your heart, if it reminded you that strength can exist quietly and kindness can change lives, please take a moment now to like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, and share it with someone who might need hope today. And before the ending, we have a special request. Comment the word resilience below if you believe that no one should be judged by their lowest moment. Mara Ellison didn't rise because she was rescued. She rose because she endured. Because she loved her children more than she feared failure. Because even when doors closed in daylight, she kept walking forward, trusting that the sun would eventually reveal a path. And when it did, she didn't use it to look down on those who once rejected her. She used it to lift others up, proving that true wealth isn't what you inherit, but what you choose to do once you finally have the power to choose.